Well, welcome to Bourbon Writers, and in tonight's special feature, we're going to talk about my 5 favorite finished bourbons. Now, everyone has been talking about finished bourbons on YouTube, and it's pretty much a trend right now. Everyone is finishing bourbons in something. Staves, casks, barrels, you name it, they're finishing it inside it. In fact, there's one bourbon that I like that's finished in maple syrup barrels of all things. We're not only going to show you my 5 favorite, I'm going to taste them and tell you what I think about with each one. So, let's get started, shall we? First up, Noble Oak Double Oak. Now this is a double oak bourbon whiskey finished with sherry oak staves. It's by Noble Oak Distillery, and I remember looking at their website, and they have 2 whiskeys, this Noble Oak double oak bourbon, and I think they have a double oak rye. I believe their bourbon is sourced from Indiana, and you know who that's probably from, but it's bottled by Noble Oak in Newtown, Ohio. So I tried it a little while back. In fact, we got a first pour series on it, and I thought it was an excellent tasting double oak style bourbon. In fact, I thought it kind of competes with the Woodford Reserve Double Oak. It really does. It's that good. And it's very affordable. I generally get this under $40. So that's first up on my 5 favorite finished bourbons. And it's the first one on the left here. So let's give it a little taste. Cheers. Very oaky, a little sweet. You get some baking spice right on the front. Smooth. It is a well-rounded bourbon. It doesn't taste real mature. I wouldn't say it's, you know, a 5-6-year-old bourbon. It's probably 2 to 4 years old, but it's good. And value for the money, outstanding. So we'll put that off to the side. Next up, number 2 on my list, Blue Note Crossroads. Now this is a finished bourbon, graded in Memphis. It's 100 proof, and the Noble Oak, I forgot to tell you, is 90. So the Blue Note, you've probably seen the Blue Note juke joint. Blue Note's pretty much everywhere in my part of the state, in North Georgia. And this is finished with toasted French oak. I never quite learned whether they put it in another barrel or they do it with staves. But when I came across it, and there's also a first pour video on this, I just loved it. I just thought it was delicious. There's a lot of things out there right now with toasted French oak, and I thought for the price point, this was, I think I picked it up in the low 40s. I thought it was great. So certainly if you haven't tried Blue Note Crossroads, I think you should. And that would be this glass. Cheers. I just love the viscosity on this bourbon. It's got such a great mouthfeel. It's a little bit sweet. You definitely get that toasted oak. It's just well-rounded. I mean, it's just very well-rounded. It's a good sipper. I think it might even be good over a block of ice. Very nice. Number 2 on my list. All right, number 3 on my list, and it only gets better as it goes along. Number 3 on my list is a store pick, but it's a Total Wine store pick, which means you should be able to find it. Now, this is a Maker's Mark private selection, and you've probably seen private selection in stores that you're at. Basically, that store or that company goes to Maker's Mark and basically selects a profile, a stave profile of 10 staves, and they've got 5 different types of staves, and they put those 10 staves in a barrel and finish it. I don't know if it's weeks or months. I assume it's months. And then they bottle it. This particular one is the stave profile is 52120, and I won't go through all the staves on it, but the majority of the staves are the Baked American Pure, And I just found this delicious. I did a first pour video on this recently. I think it's out on the channel now. I'll have to check. This is 109.7 proof. And as much as I love the Maker's Mark cast strength, and I do love it, this was a step up from the cast strength. I just thought that because it is at a cast strength with those staves, it's just delicious. Just velvetly smooth and right sweetness, the right proof. It's the best Maker's Mark I've had to date. Now, granted, I've got to taste the BEP that just came out, and this may be number 2, but right now, this is my favorite Maker's Mark. So let's give it a taste. Cheers. Oh, that is so good. So rich and flavorful. Sweetness. Those staves. I don't know what Baked American Pure does for bourbon, but it's crazy good. I mean, this stuff is really good. If you like the Maker's Mark cast strength, I think you'll like the Private Selection even more. It is pricier because it is a store pick, but it is delicious. I'm gonna take another taste. This stuff is really good. I only poured a little bit in each glass because that's a lot of bourbon to drink. Oh man. You get that baking spice going on, that Kentucky hug. And it's a wheater. Of course, you know I love wheaters. So it's, right now, this is my favorite wheated bourbon, and it's finished. Even better, right? Number 4 on my list. A longtime favorite if you've been listening to this channel. Widow Jane Decadence. Now this was probably the first finished bourbon I ever tasted. And I went like, oh my God, who's been keeping this from me? Widow Jane, if you don't know, is a distillery or bottler up in New York. And I know they do some of their own bourbons. They list this as being a blend, and it says from Kentucky, Tennessee, and Indiana. But they finish it and bottle it, of course. This is Widow Jane 10-year that they then finish in, of all things, maple syrup barrels. And I'd repeat it, but then you probably heard me the first time. And what do they say about it? It says, there is no word to describe this, and they're right. We took some of our legendary bourbons and finished them in barrels that held New York's finest artesian maple syrup from Crown Maple. That's a company that does maple syrup. The result is a rich, creamy, smooth, and slightly sweet mouthful of whiskey flavor. It is way beyond good. It's decadent. And they are 100% correct. This stuff is crazy good. Like I said, it was the first finished bourbon I ever had, and I've been addicted to it ever since. When I say addicted to it, I've got multiple bottles. I will never be out of Widow Jane Decadent unless they go out of business or stop making it. So let's taste the Widow Jane Decadence. Cheers. Oh man. It's been a while since I've had this. This is so delicious. It's just crazy good. I mean, if you've not had Widow Jane Decadence, you're denying yourself a treat. Now, Widow Jane Decadence can be a little pricey. I've seen it over $100 in places. I generally buy it for less than $100, but I've definitely seen it for as much as $150 in a few places. It is a little harder to find than the Widow Jane 10-year. It's probably harder to find than the Widow Jane 13 or 14. When you do find it, you're probably going to pay $100 or more for it, but it's worth the treat. I mean, I've got other bourbons I've paid more than $100 for and aren't near as good as this Decadence. So if you find it, or if you have a friend that has some, you need to try it. It's just it's outlandishly good. It is outer space good. It's something good. It's crazy good. All right, last but not least, a new brand for me. I hadn't come across it before, and I got this as a Father's Day present of all things, and it's a finished bourbon from a company that I've seen out there, and kind of like, I don't know anything about them. I don't know if I want to spend my money on. Someone else spent the money for me and gave it to me as a gift, and wow, I love it. So last but not least, Barrel. Now this is their Armida. This is a bourbon whiskey finished in pear brandy, rum, and Sicilian Amaro casks. Now I had to look up what Amaro was. It's kind of a spice. This stuff is off the chain good, and that pear brandy finish and the rum, it's amazing. I've never tasted a bourbon quite like this Barrel. Now I'm interested in some of the other finishes that Barrel does. It is a little pricey. I think my wife paid around $80 for it. So it's not cheap. It's not as expensive as the Decadence. And they have some ones that is much more expensive. So some limited release ones. But this, if you haven't tried the Barrel, certainly their Armida is one of them that you should try. So let's give a taste. Cheers. This is dessert in a glass. Not only is it the sweetest of any of these bourbons on the table here, it is got the most unique flavor with that pear brandy and the rum finish to it. It's dessert in a glass. I mean, it is like, it's like, hey, can you give me some peach cobbler and put some rum in there? Oh, and don't forget the bourbon. Mix it up good. Here you go. Barrel Armida. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Wow, that is good. I don't know that I'm going to buy a second bottle of it because I want to try the other ones before I buy a second one of this and then decide if I actually need a second one. Because they've got a really nice lineup of finished bourbons. And I think that's really what they're known for, is their ability to really finish off a bourbon. Sourced or not, I don't care. This stuff is delicious. So that completes my 5 favorite finished bourbons. For now, list is always changing and expanding, but for now, these are all super delicious and something that I plan on keeping around for a while. So we hope you will enjoy this video and you'll like, share, and comment. And please, always drink responsibly, never drink and drive, and go get you a good finished bourbon. See you next time.